haunted by the dreams. These visions of sidewalks under trees in varied weather. Indiscriminate in their attachment to time and place, they flash and leap about, playful as a lantern dancing lit above the deepest water. As beads strung along twine, they are connected, but as twine breaks and beads scatter, so does the memory. The richness of a full bucket, splashed to vanishing upon some now glistening garden's pebbled path, emptied only to be filled anew. At this point, the visions shatter, and I am returned to an empty railroad yard in the middle of nowhere with a drink in my hand, and there's a star outside. And it is nighttime, and I've been doing something terrible lately, involving this nice woman I don't really care for, but seem to let spend time with me nonetheless. I've been down this road before, this path of letting people into my house just to watch them scream and fiddle as it is burned to the ground. The look of ashes on the cheeks is so becoming and makes me happy inside, which is nice because lately it has been so difficult to smile. All the birds I see are black and larger than I'd like, or they are massed and swooping, like the wall of grackles that descends when dusk falls in West Texas. It was only the year before I was in Tahoka, working labor, lifting things, or at least I had the aim of doing this, but things kind of worked out for the worse, seeing as how I couldn't actually keep a job, what from all the drinking I just couldn't seem to help myself from doing. So after pretty much everyone had thrown me out of town, and by that I mean I couldn't go nowhere that would serve me a drink, I found myself a ride with a long hauler by the name of Pierogi. No relation, he told me, to the Polish dumpling of similar name with slightly different spelling. Pierogi was a real fishy-smelling beer-bellied bastard, and he gave me the once-over as I stood on the side of Highway 380, covered in sunburn and the grit of poor hygiene, offering me a ride on the condition that I would but clean my damn broke-as-a-fuck-dummy self. So I took the first shower I'd had in months, and I started to think about quitting with this whole drinking thing when I remembered I maybe had a bit more in a little Welch's grape juice plastic bottle that I'd been forgetting about for weeks. So I up and checked my pack and found the bottle, and sure enough, it smelled strong when I whiffed it, so I made my way back to the road and nursed that grape juice like it was my own mother's sweet burning milk, and I her, as yet unbroken, only begotten son, until Pierogi rumbled up to where I was standing and honked his horn for me to hop on and ride with him all the way to San Diego. At least that was the plan. But Pierogi was one weird piece of work, the likes of which I couldn't really make heads or tail of. Maybe it was the grape working itself purple on my brain, but I'm pretty sure Pierogi told me in more ways than one that he normally mutilated and killed the people he picked up and let hitch a ride. But that with me, I was such a sorry-looking fool, and the drink had obviously left my brain peppered with as many holes as a forgotten backcountry dirt road, that I just wouldn't be worth it. For what's the fun in sticking a knife in some damn fool who just about might laugh when you do it, and laugh harder still when he up and sees the blood coming out his own damn self? Now maybe you'll be calling me crazy with me telling you this, or maybe it's just proving Pierogi's point that I was nothing but a damn silly fool. But when he finished telling me all this, and I'd had a chance to have a nap on it, I realized I was a mite bit hurt by the whole rejection aspect of it all. I wasn't even good enough to mutilate and torture, okay, I get that, but the guy didn't even want to kill me. And the more I drove with him, the more I was shocked that he didn't. I mean, this guy was all about killing. It was all he talked about, and he talked about it non-stop. He showed me Polaroids of so many dismemberings and disembowelings and cutthroats and chopped toes that I simply couldn't take it much more, and so I up and lost all my Welches all over Pierogi's sweaty beerfish body. I didn't think it too bad, seeing as how it wasn't much but a little bit of old purple swellness, but Pierogi just went dark as a liver and growled and slammed and pulled on those big rig brakes like a bitch bastard demon and jerked the whole deal to a bone-rumbling halt and told me to get the hell out of his truck fast as the winds of fury. Needless to tell you, I did, which is how I lost all my things, seeing as how they were all piled in my packs, which I left behind the seat when I hightailed it out. Just a screaming and a howling straight into the middle of the New Mexico high desert, just outside Albuquerque near the Chamiso Wilderness. As close to the kind of fit you don't ever come out of as I ever been. Just so worked up to thinking of sitting for even 1 minute with something as black and full of all the evil a good man could ever fear to find, as I had on that ride with the man I knew as Pierogi. I spent the night in some thorny bush, all full of sorrow for the world, and I cried about the state of things, the wars in far-off places, the children who go hungry, but most of all I was so full of sorrow about my own self. I didn't have a drink to call my own, no friends, no home, just me, all alone in some desert with only the stupid stars shouting things at me about what I was to do and who I was supposed to be. I fell asleep in bits, always waking to the image of some blood-spattered Polaroid of some gore fest that twisted and came alive inside my head. And Pierogi was there, a giant tuna with a sideways glass eye, just watching me unblinking as the pink of his fish gills flapped and flipped and dripped clumps of hair matted with urine and beer sweat. It was certainly one of the worst nights I had ever had, and I couldn't help but think, even though I knew it was the kind of think most termed to be bad, that if I had just one little drink with me to keep me company, then maybe the dreams wouldn't be too bad. Maybe I'd be okay with shutting my eyes. But no. I had no drink, so it only goes to figure that I had no sleep, which can only lead one to know that I watched the sunrise over the hills and shooed the darkness away. Sunrise in the desert when you're all alone and you don't have a thing to call your own sure does take its own damn time, just inching out with these little increments of color, sent to spread in slow time across the sand and rocks and bush and cacti. I was hungry and thirsty and so damn cold, and I can't say how well I was really knowing if I was still alive or not. So I just started crying these silent, great tears that helped blink away the sand that kept blowing all on my face. Then in a burst of suddenness, there comes out of the morning light this sound from over near the dawn like soft, gentle thunder. Soon a little cloud of dust starts puffing along the earth towards me, still far off, still sort of blocked out by the low morning glare, and it gets closer and turns into a shape of color, which then becomes a horse, and then a horse with someone small on its back. I stand and begin to wave, and the cloud of dust comes to where I am beside the brittle, thorny bushes. And there it was. The most beautiful palomino I'd seen, which some might say isn't saying much since I haven't been around as many horses as maybe some people, but I've seen my share, so I feel sure in saying it a damn sight to see that morning, with velvet shanks gleaming under a layer of fresh exertion, its eyes brown and deep, the pink of its nostrils flaring in and out with every breath. The rider I saw was a small, unassuming figure in poor workman's clothes, just some old worn jeans and a light blue t-shirt with thick rings of dark and very old perspiration, riding bareback and barefoot, looking to be a bit older than me, but not by much. He looked down at me, and I squinted in the light, and I tried to see if he had kind eyes, or if it was another one of those devils with murder in his mind that I was so quick to be on the lookout for now. I couldn't quite tell, but he did smile and hold a brown and calloused hand down for me and pulled me up with him onto the horse, and I held on as tight as I ever held on to anything. And I marveled at the quiet strength I could feel powering this small, determined man whose skin was the color of rocks at sunset and who hollered like a desert coyote when goading the fleet horse to flying above the earth of sand and dust and brittle, breakable things onward towards the sky and the clouds and the tops of mountains. It was only when we landed again, in what was according to him somewhere in Arizona, that I thought to ask the man his name, and whether or not he might be kind enough to lend a silly damn fool a little bit of something to drink, as I was feeling very, very thirsty.
Yeah.